السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us in the company of the righteous in this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us amongst the righteous on the day of Qiyamah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our lives with mercy and rahmah, as all of us are in the need of the rahmah and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We continue from the series of the dua, the prayers and the supplication of the prophets in the Quran. And today's dua is from the dua of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. And from amongst the many prophets that we know, all of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave so many beautiful traits. But when it came to the life of Ayyub alayhi salam, it was something which, subhanAllah, he stood out upon, which is that continuous patience and that quite resilience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the most difficult part of his life. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us in khair and afiyah. We should never ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for any difficulty. That's one of the most beautiful things, is that we should always ask Allah for afiyat, ease, khair, right? We should never ask Allah for any difficulty. As a man used to make dua and used to say, "Oh Allah, grant me sabr. Oh Allah, grant me patience." And Umar radiallahu anhu almost whipped him, and he said, "Don't ask Allah just directly for patience, because ask Allah for afiyah. You're asking for patience so that you could be tested and you could be patient. Ask Allah for khair, right? Ask Allah for ease. Ask Allah for comfort, that, oh Allah, make it easy for me." And of course, when moments and difficulties and times do come, then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is part of our lives as well. But this is the level of dignity on how, suffering at the time when Ayyub alayhi salam had difficulty, and how he restrained himself in speech and what he said, and his deep trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is from chapter 21. This is Surah Al-Anbiya, and ayat is verse number 83. So in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 83, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa ayyuba idh nada rabbahu. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us and mention Ayyub and define Ayyub's life when he called upon his Rabb. When he called upon his Rabb, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ. And what did Ayyub say? Alayhi salam. He said, أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. أَنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ. Ya Rabb, O my Lord, indeed hardship has touched me. Hardship has afflicted me. And then right after saying this, وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. This is the complete dua of Ayyub alayhi salam. Ya Allah, difficulty touched me, you're the most merciful, right? This is the depth of the dua of Ayyub alayhi salam. So let's go back a little bit. So Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, amongst the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was tested in a way that very few have been tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him with loss of wealth, and not only that, but upon that his children, and then upon that his health, long time suffering, and upon that also socially isolated by everyone as well, right? So wealth, family, health, and social isolation, right? This is a lot for a single person. Right? A lot has gone one after the other one, and not only for a short period of time. It's a prolonged period of time that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was afflicted, right? And one thing, and ulama have mentioned that despite years of difficulty and hardship, he never complained about Allah, right? And that's one thing to understand, is one is to complain about Allah, and one is to complain to Allah. Even with Yusuf alayhi salam and Ayyub alayhi salam and other prophets, there's a difference. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was pelted in the stones in the valley of Taif for 3 to 6 miles, to the point that when his own body became full of his own blood, and it began to drip from his body and began to clog his own slippers, that he couldn't walk anymore, right? When you do wudu in your flip-flops and you try to walk, your feet get stuck because of the water inside your flip-flops. If you ever tried, if you made wudu and you put your shoes on and you try to walk quickly, they begin to grasp onto your feet and you can't walk. This was the condition from the blood of the Prophet ﷺ on the day of Taif. And he couldn't walk properly, and he sat to the side, and he never complained about Allah. He said he put a complaint in front of Allah. He said, Allahumma inni ashku du'afa quwwati wa qillata hilati. Oh Allah, I present my weakness and difficult situation in front of you. Right? So a lot of time we don't realize that we need to understand, put our complaint in front of Allah rather than complaining about Allah. Oh Allah, why me? Oh Allah, why me in that situation? A lot of time we go through difficulty and we tend to choose these words. So he never complained about Allah, and he never lost his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when he makes his dua after all of these difficulties, the choice of his words were, Inni anni massani al-dur. Oh Allah, difficulty has touched me. He did not say, oh Allah, I'm destroyed. Oh Allah, I'm suffering. Why is this happening to me? He could have said any of those because he was in a very difficult situation. Family, wealth, children, health, isolation. He simply said, Ya Allah, hardship has touched me. Anni massani al-dur. Oh Allah, difficulty has touched me. And in linguistic, the word mas itself means something that touched me, and not even the words crushed me or something that overwhelmed me, right? Mas means just touch. Like when you do masa of the head, it's like just touching. So the choice of the word is that he's not putting any emphasis that, oh Allah, why are you putting me in a very difficult situation? Because he knows that Allah knows me already. Allah knows my condition. He knows my halat. So it also shows within Ayyub alayhi salam the sense of humility. It shows a sense of patience. And also one of the most important things, and may Allah give us that strength, is emotional restraint, right? And that's something very, very important, right? Emotional intelligence from the life of Rasulullah ﷺ was something so important that I think that we need to continuously talk about when it comes to family and children and our lives. So dua of Ayyub alayhi salam was full of humility and patience and emotional restraint as well, right? He's in a very, very difficult situation. But he says, Oh Rabb, oh Allah, difficulty has touched me, right? If a difficulty has not overwhelmed me, not destroyed me, and then he does not even ask directly, because he knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts him in this situation. So he does not even ask directly. And this is the most beautiful part of this dua itself. And he does not say, Ya Allah, cure me, right? He could have said it's nothing wrong with it. But he simply describes his situation by saying, Wa anta arhamur rahim. He simply says, Oh Allah, indeed, you already know me and you know my condition and you are merciful enough, Ya Allah. You know me, you know my situation, and you're merciful. And it's not even demanding, right? It's just presenting in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So more than demanding, his dua was trusting. And I think this is the climax of dua. It's not for everyone, right? But this is the adab of dua that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam is asking. Sometimes in our dua, we could be demanding, and that's fine, because who else should we ask except for Allah? Sometimes we have to, right? Sometimes it's us and Allah. We need to. Right? Who else should we go to except for Allah when we need something in a more demanding way? But this was the excellence of Ayyub alayhi salam, that he was not even demanding in his dua. He was just trusting. He says, Anni massani ad-dur wa anta arhamur rahimin. Oh Allah, you are the most merciful of the merciful. Allah, what can I even ask? You're the most merciful already, and you know my need, my haja more than anything else. So, one of the most powerful points from these particular portion itself is that Ayyub alayhi salam is expressing his need and is praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what was the immediate response? The next ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and he says, we removed his hardship. And not only that, we restored his family. And not only that, we multiplied his blessings. Everything came back, one after the other, one after the other, right? It could have been something, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his rahmah, through his mercy. And after all of that, he says, a mercy from us, Allah says. Mercy from us. Because he asked for Allah's rahmat. He asked for Allah's ease and comfort. So, brothers and sisters, as we are coming closer to the end of the month of Ramadan and we're learning these particular dua, one thing that we understand from this particular moment is that there is dignity in patience. Ayyub alayhi salam teaches us that hardship does not have to be a moment that we break connections with Allah. It may be a moment to build ta'alluq and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes in difficult moments, people tend to go away from deen. Why am I being tested? Why am I going through that difficult time? Patience can teach us dignity and closeness to Allah. That's the dua that Ayyub alayhi salam is teaching us. Don't let a difficult moment ever take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There may be khair. There must be khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in situation. That's one thing. Number two, You don't ever have to have perfect words to ask Allah. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way, but as long as you trust Allah and you're sincere in what you're asking. You don't have to have the perfect words. You don't have to have the most eloquent words to ask Allah. You just need to trust Allah, and you just need to present your heart in front of Allah. And sometimes you don't have to say anything except, Ya Allah, you know my condition. That's it. That's the only thing sometimes we have to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And last but not least, we must remember and know that Allah knows even before we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's the karam of Allah that He allows us to utter these words and present it in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, this is the dua from Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, and this is Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 83. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us, wa Ayyuba idh nada rabbahu, and when Ayyub alayhi salam, the Prophet of Allah, had nida and mentioned to his Rabb, and he says, Anni massani ad-durru wa anta arhamur rahimin. Indeed, hardship has touched me, and you are the most merciful of those who are merciful. May Allah accept this for us with rahmah and barakah and mercy in our life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the blessings of the remaining days of the month of Ramadan, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Subhanallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka.